Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, council members, directors, and gallery members. Welcome to Tuesday, April 11, 2023 regular council meeting. I call the meeting to order at 1 p.m. At this time, for the added items, I am going to direct you over to Acting CAO Sheena for an update.
Thank you, Mayor. So I would like to move item 6A, the tax rate bylaw, under the spring budget adjustments. So it would be item 10B. And I'd also call on our legislative clerk for another amendment to the agenda.
The legislative clerk, Marcy
Thank you.
McKinnon.
Thank you, through the chair. On page 38 of the agenda, there is a line that we would like to request be struck out, and I'll just go, sorry, and I'll just go to that page. In this third paragraph here, this line that says the CAO policy is, in administration's opinion, sufficient, it needs to be deleted from this RFD because we are proposing changes. And it was just a typographic error as we left it in there by error, sorry.
Thank you for that explanation. I've marked that for page 38 for item 7B, that it would be approved as amended. Any further added items? All right, seeing none then, I would like a motion, please, for the added items to the agenda. Yes, thank you, Councillor Blatz.
Do you just want me to move the adoption of the added items, amended items?
Yes, Councillor Blatz, thank you, just so we know that they've been
That's fine.
accepted by council.
I so move.
Thank you. Are there any other questions to the added items? I'll call for the vote then. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. We're moving down now to item B for the adoption of the agenda as amended. I think Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that we adopt the agenda for, council agenda for April 11th, 2023 as amended.
Thank you very much. At this time, I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We're to item C at this time, and we do have an announcement. And I would call on Director Wagstaff for the introduction, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. We do have with us today a new employee I'd like to introduce to council. Ken Kruger is the manager of Parks and Recreation, starting today, and will be part of our major transition of moving parks into community services. So please welcome Ken. He's joining us from the city of Camrose, and is just getting settled into our community. So Ken, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thank you, Doug. Just first day here. I am looking forward to the challenges and the opportunities. I hope that striving forward that we can make some key changes and adapt to the growing concerns that the council has that created this position. So just want to look forward working with all of you.
We certainly welcome you to the community and welcome you to the town of Olds, and we all look forward to the future and the direction you're going to bring to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll move down to item 2, adoption of the previous minutes, please, of March 27, and a motion, please. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would make the motion that we adopt the regular council meeting minutes of March 27, 2023.
Thank you very much. Does council have any questions to these minutes at this time? Seeing none then, we have a motion from Councillor Wilson, and I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We are, sorry? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I am now moving to item 3, business arising from the minutes. Just an update, there's been some observations in our council meeting, and just a reminder once again that business arising from the minutes, the section is to provide an opportunity for problems or questions from previous meeting minutes that were already approved. So this will never be listed on the agenda as a header or any business to it other than what council chooses to bring. So we have, is there anything that you would like to bring up then for rising out of the minutes? Very good. Seeing none, we'll move down now to the public hearing on page 9. All right. Somehow I've got everything all mixed up here. One moment. What page is this? Thank you. Well, thank you, because my agenda's all backwards. Very good. Thank you very much. At this time, we will be looking at the public hearing, but I do have a page that I need here, so I'll just grab that. Very good. We will be holding a public hearing for bylaw 2023-07. And I will go right into the public hearing at this time, and I will call the public hearing. I will read the pecuniary interest for the municipal councillors that Section 172 states that you may not take part in a discussion and decision-making on a matter in which you have a pecuniary interest. The legislation attempts to ensure that you are not discriminated either for or against. If you have a pecuniary interest, you are to disclose that you have an interest and its general nature. You are to abstain from any discussion of the matter and from voting. You are to leave the room until the matter has been dealt with, and you should make sure that your abstention is recorded in the minutes. You are not to be discriminated against and are entitled to participate in the public hearing as a member of the public. I now declare the public hearing open at 1:07 p.m. for bylaw 2023-07 amendment to the land use bylaw. And I would ask the development officer to come to the podium here and explain the purpose and the effect of our proposed bylaw, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, councillors, Director Linderman. The purpose of this bylaw is to allow for mixed-use development as permitted in the Central Commercial District for property located at 5034 49th Street. Currently, the use only allows for commercial above grade. The applicant is looking to renovate the commercial property at grade and add a residential use at the back of the property. The front of the property would still remain commercial. Access from the street would remain solely commercial. Access to the residential would be from the rear of the property. I'm happy to take any further questions.
Thank you very much. I would then ask, I'm just looking at the gallery, I just want to make sure, do we have anyone in the gallery here for the bylaw 2023-07 land use bylaw this afternoon? Seeing none, then I will not have to read through the persons addressing with council. I will move directly to council and ask council comments, if you have any comments. Seeing none at this time, I would ask the development officer if you have any final comments.
No further comments, thank you.
Well, very good. I declare the public hearing closed at 1:09 p.m. Now, I'd ask you to return to page 9, and I would be asking now for second reading, please, to the bylaw. Deputy Mayor Daley.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council give second reading to bylaw number 2023-07.
Thank you. If there's no questions, I will call for the vote. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. And third and final reading, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I'd make the motion that council gives third reading to bylaw number 2023-07.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We will now move down to page 13 of your agenda. This is going to also be a joint public hearing for bylaws 2023-08 and 2023-09 with regards to Mountain View Emergency Shelter Society property. I will not read the pecuniary interest once again for council, as you've already heard that. I will declare the public hearing open at 1:11 p.m. I would ask the development officer once again to explain the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw.
Thank you again. The purpose of both of these bylaws, rather, one is an amendment to the Uptown Olds area redevelopment plan, and one is an amendment to the land use bylaw, is to redesignate a portion of the town-owned land at 5001 54th Street, the south end of 50th Ave, for the purpose of Mountain View Emergency Shelter Society constructing their emergency shelter. I'd be happy to take any more questions. Thank you.
You once again. I'm looking at the gallery once again and do not see any members in the gallery that will be approaching the podium. Very good. I will then move right down again to ask my council colleagues for any comments or questions. Very good. I've got three, and I'll start with Councillor Blatz and go to Deputy Daly, and then I'll go to Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you, I guess, to our development officer today. I had a concern with on page 22 with the CP rail, and stating that they're not in favor of a residential use that's adjacent to, of course, the railway tracks, and knowing that it has to be, well, approximately 90 feet, the dwelling will have to be 90 feet from the property line. Will that in any way impede the building, or will they just shift it all over more to the west side of that lot? Because it also looked to me like it was required that we would have to build some type of a berm or a retaining wall on that property. Would that be part of it?
So we've reached out to CP for some further comment, explaining the purpose of the shelter, that it's not a permanent residence. As of yet, we haven't heard back on any clarifications. We have looked at the offset that they've asked for. We don't see that being an impact. That's what I can say at this point in time, anyway.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll move to Deputy Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and my question was very much the same as Councillor Blatz, so thank you for answering that.
Thank you. I'll move over to Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I did have a question with regards to the same item, making sure that when it goes forward, that we, adhere to whatever guidelines are being required by the railway company, but also having a conversation with hospice to see whether or not they want to reconfigure where the buildings will be on that lot, just so that it's proceeds in a safe manner. Thank you.
Councillor Ryan, this is the Mountain View Regional Emergency.
Right, sorry.
Mountain
View, yeah.
Mountain View
sorry.
Emergency
Yeah,
Shelter.
The emergency shelter, not the hospice, yeah, sorry.
Very good. Anything further? Or are you still asking that same question?
That was just a comment.
Thank you. Very good. Any further comments or questions? Nothing further from council at this time, then. I declare the public hearing closed at 1:14 p.m. Now, if you can please turn to page 13 of your agenda. We'll do the second reading, please, for 2023-08, second and third reading. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council give a second reading to bylaw number 2023-08.
No questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And third and final reading, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council gives third reading to bylaw number 2023-08.
Thank you. I will once again call for third and final reading. Those in favor? And opposed? One opposed? That's carried. We will now move down to second reading for 2023-09. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would make the motion that council gives a second reading to bylaw number 2023-09.
Thank you. I will ask the, call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Opposed? One opposed? That's carried. Third and final reading, please. Deputy Mayor Daley.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council gives third reading to bylaw 2023-09.
Once again, I will call for the vote for third and final reading. Those in favor? That's carried. Opposed? One opposed. That's carried. Thank you. We will now move down to page 25 of your agenda. This is item 5A, Olds Family and Community Support Services. Who would be speaking to this, Acting CEO?
I'll have Director Wagstaff speak to this item.
As this has been presented previously to council at the P&P meeting, this is a change that will have no financial impact on the tax draw. It would be a reallocation of funds within the FCSS budget to adjust to a new delivery model. And that's was raised in the P&P meeting, and that's what you have before you today, directing the CAO to develop a community connection center and change the FCSS program delivery model in a direction that would that would support preventative programs, projects, and services being coordinated out of a central location.
Thank you very much for that information, Director Wagstaff. I know council has had some conversation amongst, with our CEO in this regard as well. And I would open the floor if any questions from the floor from council. And we'll start with Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to Director Wagstaff, or maybe through CEO Linderman, Acting CEO Linderman. Okay, so this will be just a change in how we will deliver the services. There will be no effect to our service levels at all, will there?
It's correct. It will change how we deliver FCSS programming within the community.
Thank you. I have other questions, but I'll let it.
Okay, if it's supplemental, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll go to a new question.
No, it'll be a new question, so I'll
Okay,
let
thank you,
someone else-
Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I was just wondering if somebody could tell me what the contribution from the town of Olds is towards FCSS, because it's not listed here as project revenue, so I'm just wondering what our costs are.
So the town's contribution is the 58,338. That's the tax requirement that comes from the town of Olds. And that is the required amount to meet the provincial funding.
So that's our 20% then,
Yeah.
Director Lindemann? Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, and then back to Councillor Blatz, and then back, okay, Councillor Wilson, and then Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz and Mayor Dahl. Just a question for Director Wagstaff. Can you tell me how many staff are impacted by this relocation from essentially town office to a site to be determined in the downtown, uptown core?
3. There will be 3 staff that will be relocated with this facility.
Anything further, Councillor Wilson?
I do have another question, but it's not entirely a supplemental, so I'll defer and come back to me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll come back to you then, and we'll go to Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. And I do recall, I went back through my notes, and I believe that Ms. Dixon on March 6th delivered to us that they'd done a mini survey in the community, and that it was fairly well received at that point in time as far as how the services would look and how the change in the funding model for FCSS would be. So I'm just curious, is if we should look perhaps, if this goes through and we have this community center hub, or community connection center hub, should we do another survey at, say, halfway mark of 6 months, just to ensure that it is where we thought it was going to be going and how that would all work out? And perhaps would there also be quarterly reporting coming back at a council meeting also with, the budget impacts, ensure that we're on track? Because as we're all aware, we did cut back $80,000 on the pool, trying to save some funds, and now will there be different changes to that? Although you guys have said there's no tax implications, but just to ensure that there will be no changes to the budgeting.
To answer that.
I'll answer the part about the circling back and ensuring that we're connecting feedback with the community on it. It may not be at a 6-month point. That might be a little soon, but certainly, absolutely, we'll continue to check in with the community groups on how it's going from their end, as well as the community on the delivery of services. The financial piece, maybe CAO, acting CAO, and Director Linderman would comment on that, but that's our 58,000 is our minimum requirement. The only change that may occur in that going up is that we will have a small increase in funding from the province, which may then equate to us having to top up a little bit of our own part, because as the increase to keep that 20/80 balance, we are getting with the budget that was announced here this spring, a small, and I mean small, roughly about $10,000 more will be coming our way from the province.
So just speaking to the budget, any changes to that budget would need to come through council anyways, so those would be discussed during budget deliberations.
And final, Director Wagstaff, and then I'll move over to Councillor Ryan and Councillor Wilson.
And the other check that we have there is that there is reporting on the outcomes to the province. So that's one of the pieces, is how is the impact happening with your FCSS funding in your community? That's one of the outcomes that we report back on to the province.
You, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you very much, Mayor Dolan. I'm kind of a little bit confused about the financing of this. So our contribution as a town is 58,000. From what I look, and I take out all of the items on the budget that has expenses, that has the CCC, which I imagine, which is the Community Connection Center, that adds up to $93,580. Now, if we take a look and we say, subtract our contribution, which is the 58 from there, there's still roughly $30,000 that would have to come from either the contribution from Mountain County or from the province. And it was my understanding that the funds coming from the province cannot go towards rental or things like that. So can we get this cleared up? Because it's my understanding we can't use the FCS dollars in that way. I could be wrong.
Yes, so we have confirmed with the province that FCSS dollars can go towards rents, leases, yep, utilities, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for answering that question, Acting CEO Sheena. And we'll go over to Councillor Wilson and back to Councillor Blatz. Oh, and have you had your hand up for a while? And then Deputy Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. Again, just a quick question for Director Wagstaff, and it gets back to the revenue streams and the funding. You've talked on the 80-20 split, and there may be a little bit of movement there as the provincial share goes up. Can you talk to the contribution from Mountain View County and how that's determined, how that's set, and how variable that can or may be going forward?
I may defer to our finance on that, as that's one of the agreements we have with the county with regards to FCSS funding.
Yeah, it is just stipulated in our agreement with them, and it's on a per capita basis. They send us a letter every year telling us how much they will be contributing.
Very good. Now we'll go to Councillor Blatz and then Deputy Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. So just for clarity's sake, because in going back on my notes, and I do recall CEO Williams at the time said that 35,000 funding would be for space provided instead, or in lieu, I guess, maybe, of programming. Is that how I understood it to be correctly? Because some of these community groups that we will be offering services to, we would just be offering them free space to either hold counseling or hold programming, or say Moccasin House, I believe, Ms. Dixon said that, they had their ribbon, I can't recall exactly what it was called, I apologize to everyone for that, but those types of programmings, that's what we would be providing? Ribbon skirt, yes. That's the type of programming that we would be providing, that CEO Williams was referring to at March 6th.
For some details, we'll have Heather Dixon provide it. There was twofold. It's not all free. There will be some permanent office space in there where there would be contributing towards a lease.
Yeah, so we have had two groups come forward that will have money to put towards their office space. And then the other office space that you're speaking of is an office space that can be booked for satellite groups from larger centers that come in. For example, we had a meeting this morning with the John Howard Society, and they are looking also for an office that would be a space that would be a regular space where people would know to come and find their services. They're struggling right now and they don't have a current spot in Olds. So groups like that, the Sexual Assault Center, that was another one in Red Deer. Also the Center for Newcomers, so was previously under another name, but they support anybody that's coming in who might be a foreign worker, an immigrant, or, for example, our Ukrainian friends that have joined us in the area. So they help them and walk through all of the certain different, either if there's an application for funding that they can apply for, or if they want to apply for permanent residency, those types of things. And then the other thing we discussed was a programming space. So that space would be for Mountain View Resource Network to hold their parenting classes, their toddler mom and tot or adult and child classes. Mountain View Moccasin House to do their skirts, their ribbon skirts, or their drum making. We have the voices for, I'm going to get this, the new group, thank you, Olds and District, Special Family Voices, yeah. So they're very excited about using that space for some of their get-togethers for their group as well. So it's just, I guess in lieu of some of that funding, we are actually bringing in more services to our community, so we're actually getting more bang for our buck.
Thank you for that. You said it much more eloquently than I was trying to say it.
Very good. I have Deputy Daly next, and then Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And today it seems like Councillor Blatz has beaten me to the punch on two questions so far. So I would like to, my question was to elaborate on the efficiencies that we're going to gain by centralizing this facility and also the services that we offer. So thank you very much for that explanation, and I'll pass it on.
Thank you, Deputy Daly, and I'll go back to Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just wanted to speak a bit back to the budget, and that is some things that I found that weren't in the budget, and that would be, the setting up of this particular center, and that is where's the expense for, say, furniture, in particular if you're having a boardroom, where is that furniture coming from? offices, renovation costs, because normally you can't just move into a building without having to do some kind of renovation costs, moving costs, cost of IT, moving IT, and also what about security? So those things, I don't see any of those addressed within this budget, so perhaps Director Lindeman, if you could speak to it, or Director Wagstaff.
We'll go back to the podium.
Yeah, so great questions. So IT is only going to cost us $3,800. That is just putting a hub in there so that we can link back into our shared drive here. And we got that quote already from Trinus. A number of the spaces that we have looked at, a lot of them are already pretty much ready for us to move into. There's some office spaces already and some larger spaces that would accommodate the programming part of things. Mountain View Moccasin House was gifted a number of tables, desks, chairs, things of that nature from Olds College a while back, and they have given that to us, all of that, so that we can have all of that furniture. Now, some things can be purchased through FCSS funding as well. And also, the groups that we are partnering with are very excited to work with us to apply for different grants that are around for things like if we wanted to put a fresh coat of paint on it, for example. So there's a number of different streams of funding there. One of them was very positive from Western Financial right here in Olds, and they do funding for local groups that are just like this project. So there's a number of different ways, but really and truly, there's not a lot we're going to have to do depending on the spot that we move into. And obviously, that will be part of our choice making as well. So.
Okay, one final question, thank you.
Actually, supplemental to
Very
that,
good.
so that I'm not taking away from somebody else who has another question, but just supplemental to that, then those things need to be still reflected in the budget. The 3,800 for IT was not reflected in the budget. There is internet connection, I imagine it is 2,200, but I think we need to make sure that what we're doing, everything we add into this budget and everything it costs subtracts from the amount of money that we can give to those community organizations that receive SCS funding from us. So I want to make sure that we're clear as to how much we're costing, and it does impact our service delivery because of the level of service goes down if we don't have the same amount of money as before. So I want to make sure that it's clear, and that's made clear.
Thank you, and one point I'd like to make, though, your gifts of kindness, the gift of kindness that you're getting, i.e. Olds College, furniture, et cetera, it wouldn't hurt to even, if we knew, share the amount of those gifts of kindness, because that's really crucial, too. Any further questions, or did you want to finish on a note?
I was just going to say that some of those we weren't able to share until we have a place to go, because those groups have said if this moves forward, then those things they will be giving to us. And the other point is, for example, this last year, and for many years previously, we have, this year, it was $189,000 that we were given to fund out. We never have close to that for eligible programs within our community. So this is really, we're not taking away funding from these groups. We're just adding services and connections. And it's not even services that we're providing. It's really connecting people with resources and information and groups that they can get help from. So it's going to be a win-win for our entire community. And the other thing I just wanted to note is the groups that come forward for funding from FCSS on a yearly basis, they are not to rely on FCSS as a permanent funding opportunity. They are supposed to be getting self-sufficient, looking for other sources of funding. Now, we see some of those same groups. We're a smaller community, so we don't have the asks, say, Red Deer or Calgary would or Airdrie. So, but certainly they realize that they need to also be looking other places, and we are not a permanent source of funding for them.
Thank you very much, and that was, that's coming from far back, and I really applaud you for the word use of services and connections. It's like one big sharing circle we're trying to create, like a hub. Very well said. One final question then, Councillor Ryan?
I do have another question, unless then somebody else has one, and. Okay, thank you. I just had a question, and it went back to Director Wagstaff's comment with regards to staffing from Councillor Wilson, and that was the 3 staff members. So how many, but we only have 1 salary allocated within this projected expenses. So how does that work? If you could just explain to us, and then I'm just wondering, are we moving our entire community services department over there, or what's the situation?
Community development, yes. So we'd have Heather and the 2 community facilitators relocate to this spot. Again, they are a team approach. As you've seen on a number of our budgets, allocations aren't one whole portion of one salary, that they're allocated out between the 3 of them, those 3 positions.
Okay, but that begs the question of so we have 1 person who's doing FCSS and the other 2 are moving over there? Or how does that work?
We'll let Acting CEO answer that question.
So a portion of each of the community facilitators is allocated to FCSS. So, yeah, for instance, Heather's is 50%, and then the other 2, 25, or I don't know the exact numbers, but, yeah.
They've got quite a cost control system working there. It's very good. Okay, any further questions? Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. One last one, and I think Ms. Dixon may have already answered this question, but to date, we have not yet secured a final location for this Community Connection Hub.
That is correct, because we don't move forward until we have approval from the council. So we have looked at a number of spots, and our team has gone out, as well as Director Wagstaff has come as well. We had some of the community groups that are interested in being on board. They also were aware of some of those, because really it's going to be a team decision, and it has to suit the needs of the people that are going to be there day to day. And I was just thinking security. You did ask about security, and I didn't answer that. So certainly there will be if someone's in the office alone, then we use our current process of where we phone in and let Yellowhead know that we're alone in the office, and we do check-ins as well. That's the same process that we use here at the arena or at the aquatic center. And there will never be less than 2 people on site. And then, because it's not just, you have to remember, it's not just the 3 of us, we're going to have other people from other organizations there as well. And we certainly do have processes and procedures in place in case of an emergency that we would follow.
Thank you very much, and that's my cue. Deputy Mayor Daley will put a motion on the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council approve a change in the Olds Family and Community Support Services FCSS program delivery model, directing Chief Administrative Officer to develop Community Connection Center as a hub for preventive programs, projects, and services to be coordinated from. Thank you.
Thank you. And no final questions on the floor. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much for your time and your explanation with us. Thank you very much. And page 28, we've moved that now to item 10B on your agenda, so we'll just keep, the tax rate bylaw has been moved, so we will go down to item 7, page 33 of your agenda. And this is relating to the public at large council appointment for the Olds Health Professionals Attraction and Retention Committee. I am going to call the question to council at this time. Who is interested in this position? Okay, we have more than one, so you have ballots in front of you. Would everybody that would like their name put on a ballot for choice, put their hand up? I will decline as mayor. So right now we have Councillor Ryan and Deputy Mayor Daley. Okay, so you've got 2 forms in front of you, and I guess we'll vote on one. And we'll hand them, Marcy will come around and pick those up from us. Thank you. Okay, just
Just so you know, it's unanimous.
It's unanimous. I would like to state that we will include the name of appointment of council, excuse me?
Councillor Cummings just asked me why I didn't vote for myself, and I just wanted to make sure it was a democratic process.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very, okay, so thank you. I would like to add the name that council appoint Councillor Daly. Prior to getting a motion on the floor for that, though, I would note that council has read the terms of reference, and the position will be until the organizational meeting in October, and then we will review once again. So congratulations, Councillor Daly. May I have a motion, please? Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that council appoint Councillor Daly to the OLS's Health Professionals Attraction and Retention Committee, effective immediately and to expire at the 2023 organizational meeting.
Thank you. We've already discussed this part, so I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will now move down to page 38, which is item 7B. Okay, where did my RFD go for that? Oh, there it is. All right, it's on the screen. So what I'm going to do here is, this is the policy with regards, we have two motions here that we're looking for today. We'll start with policy 315 and Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and just for clarity before I make the motion, because it does say that the third paragraph is updated policy and procedure, so both of these will be to be amended, both of these motions, or is it only the 315P? Legislative Clerk, thank you.
I'll let Marcy explain that to you, because two will be separate.
I realize they're separate, I just want to know.
Thank you, through the chair. Excuse me. What we're presenting is what you would either accept or discuss and provide direction to administration. And if you make a direction and change what we're presenting, then it would be as amended. So 315C at this point would just be accepted as presented. And on 315P, there is one grammatical error, and I believe there's one addition to be added, so that would be as amended, should council choose to do it that way.
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
council does have discussion for the second one, but we can certainly put 315C on the floor.
Thank you for that clarification. I wanted to make sure I was doing the right one. I move that council approve policy 315C, Chief Administrative Officer's Performance Evaluation, as presented.
Thank you very much, and I am asking at this time, I do not believe there's any questions, but if there's, yes, Councillor Ryan has a question?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just, with regards to policy 315C, just question with regards to the language in the change that is being suggested, which says this toolkit, on page 40, it says toolkit will be used. I'm just wondering if we should say shall or may, because there could be other toolkits that could come up or that might be better, I'm not sure, or whether we want to change that. The other one was over on 41, again, the use of shall, the following components shall be included. Could that say may be included? So the first one could possibly say will, but the second one, I'm thinking change it to may, because public feedback is not necessarily want to do that, or depending on what's going on with the organization, so. Certainly the one on 41 for changing it from shall to may.
How does council feel on the change? Does that delay? No? Okay, I have two hands up. Did you have Councillor Blatz, and we had, sorry, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and just, I know that there's been a bit of discussion about this in regards to this one component for sure, but it does say the following component shall be included at council's discretion, which does give us some flexibility. So I guess it is council's will whether we change that to shall or may.
You, I'll move over to Councillor Cummings.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor. So the issue that I had here, I think was clarified in our discussion was on page 41, if we look at the shall part of it, each one of these five, or I guess the first three is the shall, and then the last two were optional components. My only problem with the terminology is more of a legalese from my background in federal government. When the word shall is used in a heading, everything under that heading shall. So then having an optional component under a shall is just odd to me. Unless we separate the two groups, and one being a shall and one being a should, it just confuses the issue when we have a shall and then under that shall we have a should within a shall. It just doesn't make any I know the should shall thing is a odd conversation to be having, but it is a legal term, and this is a legal document where it's confusing with the should and shall in the same section of a document. Unless we want to clarify that and say within the document that.
I know that the legislation clerk needs clarity to which part you're talking
Right,
about.
so if I could finish, actually.
Did you need clarification? I'm sorry. Okay.
So what my suggestion to the amendment would be is to renumber 4 and 5 as 1 and 2 within its own category. So the optional components becomes a separate section from the obligatory components by the numbering scheme alone, and that should rectify the shall should conflict in the document, in my opinion.
Thank you. Are we following that? I'm not. Sorry, I'm just not. So, does everybody else understand exactly what we're changing? Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Yes, I totally understand what he's saying, because at the top portion is obligatory components, and the other one is, so we're obligated to do that, and the other one is optional components. So in that case, the shall, and with what Councillor Blatt said with regards to the discretion is fine, if just to leave the shall down there. And I don't have a problem with renumbering 4, 5, and 6 to 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, so there are two separate components to that, and Councillor Cummings is basically saying that having the two lumped together is probably not the best way to go forward. So if we just do the optional components as 1, 2, and 3 instead of 4, 5, 6.
All right, there. Now the number part is straight. So you're asking council's permission then if we'll accept that as an amendment?
Correct.
Okay.
The amendment to Councillor Blatz's motion.
As amended, Councillor Blatz?
Yeah, no, I'm fine with as amended. Yep.
All right, that'll be a friendly amendment from Councillor Blatz for item 1, for policy 315C. Legislative clerk?
Thank you. Through the chair, to confirm, page 40, this word will becomes a may. Is that correct? I'm asking.
Sorry,
This will right
But-
here becomes a may. This will that I must, right here becomes a may.
that was what I was suggesting, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, it could be.
I'm looking for direction from council.
Didn't seem to be anybody else was interested, so
So
I
we'll-
think just leave it as it is.
So Walsh, did you have a comment before we?
I think may works better, but will and may are almost synonymous, you're right.
Legislation clerk has it up as a change that we all agree could be may. So we'll go may. Thank you.
Thank you. And on page 41, numbering 4, 5, and 6 to 1, 2, 3, and this word shall will be changed to may. Or are we leaving it? All right, thank you.
Everybody understand now? Very good. The motion has been amended, and it was presented by Councillor Blatz, and I will call for the vote as or it's a friendly amendment. Is that what you just said? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Now, the second one is for the procedures 315P, and this is for the Chief Administrative Officer Performance Evaluation. Upon discussion with council, we would like only one amendment to make it simple, and it would be going to Section 3 responsibilities. Thank you. Council is responsible to oversee this policy, and then that would be 1, and 2 is no town staff member, and the housekeeping change is that reports directly to the CAO shall be utilized in the CAO evaluation process. And we have an added 3 we would like made, please. That reads, the legislative clerk may be involved in the process on behalf of the mayor and council. That is what council has agreed we would like added at this time. And just one more time, a general consensus that was what we heard? Very good. So that would be the amendment. So now a motion, please, as amended. Councillor Cummings?
Thank you. I move that council accept for information procedure 315P, Chief Administrative Officer Performance Evaluation as amended.
Any further questions? Call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Point of order.
Yes?
Thank you, Your Worship. We did discuss this earlier, that now that this procedure is put into place, and since we're a little bit behind time, I move that it is, sorry, I'm just going back through the procedure to find the exact line where it should be required. If you could help me out a little bit, where the mayor is supposed to ask the legislative clerk to set up, where we need to set up a committee? On the, oh, that was what we talked about at the added agenda item that you confirmed we could talk about during this discussion. Is that going to, okay, that's not what we discussed, but.
The discussion that we had is the addition of what we just added to the agenda. Okay.
We also discussed that we are already significantly behind the process based on the policy that's in front of, or the procedure that's in front of us, that we were going to ask for an added agenda item to set up that committee today.
Yes.
The committee of the whole, we discussed that quite fulsomely in the last meeting that we had about this.
Yep.
So I'm just a little confused as to why we're not doing that now and we're doing it on the 24th. Was there some reason that you and administration decided to change that?
I did not choose to change that. I'm sorry. That's not my discussion. It was a discussion we had, and I'm sure that if you want to put it on the floor, council can certainly make a decision. Councillor Walsh?
No, I just checked my calendar, and we did discuss having a meeting on the 20th, which is before the 24th, as a committee as a whole, so that would have to happen at this council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. That's my apologies, but I didn't change anything, just for your information. Go ahead.
I'm not sure, is that actually allowed to do now, is to put a motion under this?
Point of order. If all council agrees to add an item to the agenda at this point, you would do so by motion, then make your motion on whatever it is to strike the committee, and that would probably be your best workaround.
Very much. So we'll look for a motion to add this to the agenda. Thank you, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you. I'd like to add to the agenda at this time a late item to set up a committee for the CAO's evaluation.
A date? Will there be a date for that?
You're just adding an item.
Thank you.
The date and all that stuff will be discussed in the motion.
That's very true. Thank you very much. Okay, permission. We have a motion on the floor to set up a committee for the CAO evaluation. Is that correct?
No.
Added to the agenda, sorry, late item. Okay, I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We will get this, we'll get through this. And we have one more motion.
So I'm just going to write it down, so my motion will be a little bit slower than normal, because I'm a little slow.
If you look at point 5E, the last sentence there.
I request for decision.
Well, we're going to skip that part.
In order to create a review committee, so.
Right, so then the motion will be to, the council move to create a review committee, or sorry, a CAO review committee of the whole.
Yes, that was very clear. Thank you. As a whole, review committee as a whole for the CAO evaluation. Very good. Everybody understands now the motion on the floor, and I will call for the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for your patience, and thank you, everybody, for yours. We will now move to item 8, which we do not do at this council meeting. We have one more? Okay, page 46, please. Page 46 of your agenda. And this is to accept the review and recommendation of administration regarding the CAO bylaw. And who would like to put that on the floor? Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move the council accept the review and recommendation of administration regarding the CAO bylaw number 2022-04.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Does council have any questions? Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I was just wondering about the numbering of the bylaws, 2023. So is that, sorry.
Thank you, sorry.
No, legislative clerk, go ahead with your point of order.
Thank you. We're not presenting a new bylaw. We're presenting the existing bylaw. If you like it, great, we move forward with it. If you don't, we look for your changes to bring back for a first reading a new bylaw.
That's what I thought, but I didn't want to assume, that's why I asked the question. Thank you very much, legislative clerk.
Very good. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, then? Okay. What? Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Blatz. Very good. And I'm just asking finally, are we ready to approve this or questions? I will call for the vote then. We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Blatz to accept the review and recommendation of the administration regarding the CAO bylaw 2022-04. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously, and thank you very much. We will now move on past item 8, which we do not have any committees today, and go to page 50, please, of your agenda. And this is the CAO report, and he is on vacation, our CAO Williams, but there still is a report in the agenda. And I would ask if there's any questions from council or anything further to add from the acting CAO. I would just ask, do you have any further items to add to this?
No, I do not.
Okay, so on page 50, please, I'm asking for a motion. Deputy Mayor Daley.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the Chief Administrative Officer report be accepted for information.
And before I call for the vote, I'd ask council, do you have any questions with regards to the summary of the report? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Now we are on financial item 10. We're starting with 10A, and this is the operating and capital budget. And I'll hand it over to Acting CAO Linderman.
Thank you. So the 2023 spring budget adjustments were presented last Monday to council at PMP. There have been no further changes since that presentation, so today we're just looking for approval of these adjustments. And I don't have a presentation today, so if there's any questions, I'd be open to that.
Very much, CEO, Acting CEO Linderman. We did get a briefing from the CEO with regards to your adjustments, and I'd open the floor then to council at this time. If anybody has questions, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. Apologize for asking this question since I was not at the PMP meeting, but I know that I read the agenda and there was the 270 of the RCMP retro pay within that. And I do know in reading a few documents that have come across our emails lately about holding back on paying that, so I'm not sure if that's appropriate just to ask the question. Do we have that, by doing this adjustment, of course, we'll put that money aside, but is there any kind of response to that at all about, are you hearing anything, Director Lindeman, from any other communities about what's going on with that?
Since receiving the invoice, no, I have not heard anything to that effect. That was something that was circulating last year, I want to say. But since the invoices came out, no, I have not heard.
So Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan, for clarity. I do believe that when we attended the Alberta Leaders Caucus, it was discussed that the municipalities do have up to 2 years to pay these invoices, just because many communities probably weren't prepared for the total amount that would be coming forth. So luckily, due to the due diligence of our Finance Committee and Director Linderman, we have been able to set aside the money that is required from our municipality. But I think just for a note that we do have up to 2 years to pay this.
There's copious discussions going on, of course, with Alberta Munis and other municipalities. So it's good that we have that grace, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of discussion more on it. And administration will keep us up to date. So very good. So are there any other questions? I'd ask for a motion then, please, for number 1. Thank you. Ryan?
Thank you. I move that council approves the adjustments to the 2023 approved operating budget in the amount of 354,509 for a total 2023 operating budget of $33,127,660.
And we'll just leave it at that one, and we'll do 2 separate motions, please. Okay. If there's no further questions, the motion's on the floor. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. And please, a motion for the second. Okay, we'll go to Councillor Blatz on this side.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council approves the adjustments to the 2023 approved capital budget in the amount of $1,056,616 for a total 2023 capital budget of $8,306,071.
Thank you. Looking around, seeing no questions, I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We have now item 10B, the tax rate bylaw 2023-13. Acting CAO Linderman.
Thank you. So today, first reading is being asked for the 2023 tax rate bylaw. As mentioned previously, I did give scenarios last Monday at PMP on the tax impacts of this bylaw. I'll just briefly go over it again. A 5% tax revenue increase was passed in the operating budget. Our assessment overall did increase by 6.8%, so this means a decrease in our tax rates of approximately 1.8%. Also included are new this year on the tax rate bylaw is the addition of the vacant non-residential class, and this tax rate, again, has been set 20% higher than the non-residential tax rate, as well as an addition of a minimum tax, which is set at $250 on this tax bylaw. There is an amendment I would like to make to the tax rate bylaw, and that is to the county residential. This rate is from our recent annexation, and it is set in that annexation that for the next 10 years, it is the lower of either the county's residential rate or the town's, and so we use the county's residential rate. I just found out this morning that that rate, they are giving second and third reading tomorrow to their bylaw, but being proposed is a change, which would be 2.8103 instead of the 28947.
Very good, and if you're looking for that request for decision, if you go back into your agenda on page 28. Okay, and do we have questions to our Sheena with regards to that? Seeing none then, a motion that the tax rate bylaw 2023-13 is given first reading. Councillor Wilson. As amended, please, as amended. Yes, we have an amendment.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Yes, I'd make the motion that tax rate bylaw 2023-13 as amended for the county res rate be given first reading.
Just for first reading is all we need, as amended. Thank you
As
very
amended.
much. Any further questions to the first reading? Thank you. Before we go, before I call for the vote, can you explain then for the viewers when second and third reading will come back?
At the April 24th council meeting.
April 24th council meeting will have second and third reading. Today is first reading only. As amended, I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And we have page 73, please. This is correspondence and information. Page 73, item 11A. We have four correspondences. A motion to put on the floor, and if we have a discussion, we can go from there. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the correspondence and information report ending April 11th, 2023 be received for information.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Does anybody wish to speak to the correspondence? Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I noticed here with regards to the Town of Barhead letter that they wrote to the minister, and I'm just wondering if there was any, opportunity for us to do something similar, or any kind of will of this council to write a similar letter, because this is, I understand that what the industry is facing, and it's, I guess it precludes us to be supportive, or even bring this up with our association of Alberta Municipalities Association.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Ryan. This letter has been copied to the Alberta municipalities and all Alberta municipalities to date. I don't disagree with your question. I would like to hear first some more information from other municipalities as well. It's worthy of definitely supporting if council makes that choice that they would like a letter written. However, I just receiving this and noting that it is gone to Alberta municipalities, I'm sure we'll see something in the near future in our what we get for newsletters.
Yes, I saw it was CC to our association. Perhaps maybe you could bring that up at the mayor's meeting that you have, and see what whether or not other communities are.
Absolutely. That's well worthy of discussion, for sure. Thank you very much. I'm very glad. Just a question, the letter from Wellspring was very well received. When I read it, they're definitely doing some great things at no cost with regards to cancer, and I'm just wondering if our community services departments able to share any of this information. They're asking that council, as mayor, extend this out to the community, our community, and the information is very well worth the read for the services that provide with no cost. So that's, any other questions with correspondence? Very good. We have Councillor Walsh with a motion. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor to receive for information, that's carried unanimously. And I am going to close in a different way and will continue for the future. I will now be adjourning the meeting with the time only with no motion. So I adjourn today's meeting at 2:10 p.m. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and our viewers.